our mothers carrying the burdens by themselves. Our mothers carrying the burdens by themselves. I'm going to play this clip. I am about to play the clip, so it's important for you guys to pay attention. I'm only going to play it one time. I don't know if that's a headache when I play it twice, because some of y'all just go off camera. So everybody ready? Y'all good? Shonda? Good. Precious, you good? You there? Not sure if she's there. Maybe I should probably hold
Probably
on.
needed a bio break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be here.
I'm here.
Okay. All right, here we go, y'all.
And if you believe that it is not your job to raise your children, the emotional labor load and the physical labor load goes up on your wife, and your child believes that somehow they've done something wrong simply because you do not believe that it is appropriate or masculine to extend that loving and physical care to your child when that child needs it. You allow that child to cry, right? When a baby cries, it alerts the brain in a particular type of way that places it in the flight or flight space, right? The mother will respond to it, but because the father's fight or flight space probably has been burnt out by emotional trauma, there's nothing there. It's called normalized male alexithymia. And basically what that means is that it is a socialized push for men to remove their emotions from themselves. And it happens so often and so deeply that by the time we become fathers, husbands, we don't know what our emotions are. We usually just feel physiological responses from it.
Like I said, bro, I'm gonna take my time with this conversation, bro. Because, bro,
As a man, if you believe that it is not your job to raise your children, the emotional labor load and the physical labor load goes up on your wife, and your child believes that somehow they've done something wrong simply because you do not believe that it is appropriate or masculine to extend that loving and physical care to your child when that child needs it. You allow that child to cry, right? When a baby cries, it alerts the brain in a particular type of way that places it in the flight or flight space, right? The mother will respond to it, but because the father's fight or flight space probably has been burnt out by emotional trauma, there's nothing there. It's called normalized male alexithymia. And basically what that means is that it is a socialized push for men to remove their emotions from themselves. And it happens so often and so deeply that by the time we become fathers, husbands, we don't know what our emotions are. We usually just feel physiological responses from it.
like I said, bro, I'm gonna take my time with this conversation, bro. Because,
All
bro,
right, yeah. Our mothers carrying the burdens by themselves. I'm going to start with Luis first. Go ahead.
Yeah, it took me the second go around to listening to the video to really catch on what he was saying. But when I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, I mean, this explains why we have an uptick in certain domestic violence, why we have an uptick in mass shooting, why we have a certain uptick in certain type of predatory behavior, right? It's because there is that void, in a lot of young men coming up that don't have that or didn't have that experience with their father, that connection, that sort of that understanding of how to, channel their emotions. And it kind of ties back into the early conversations that we were having, right? I think it's very imperative that, a lot of young people kind of have that experience. And even those who are unfortunate, they seek that same type of um, positive masculine sort of emotional connection, dialogue with someone who is in their family, whether it's an uncle, grandfather, etc. Right? I just think that that has to be present because I think that a society with men devoid of emotional understanding is a very dangerous society. You know what I'm saying? And I think that today we are kind of raising the most dangerous people in our society because a lot of them don't have that. They're devoid of that. And sort of that's why you find a lot of those societal ills. And I think that once we, you know, uh, correct the ship, I think that we will see a much different sort of breed of men in the future. a lot much more stoic, a lot much more balanced. I think a lot much more emotionally grounded, right? And I think that that will much lead to much better relationships. But I just think that based on what he shared and me kind of reflecting on like what's happening now in the conversations that we've had, and what our society, it's just not present at the moment. But definitely, I do agree with what he was saying.
All right, go ahead, Balance.
I think I'm the only woman on the panel today that's actually not a mother yet. So I'm going to be speaking more from observation than my personal experience because I don't have children. But I will say what I have seen are a lot of men. I'm trying to say this right. They may not have, I always say it's emotional intelligence, or we could say emotional control. You have to develop this. And if you don't have it, it's really, really hard to relate to others, especially women, especially children. Sometimes you can't really know what they're feeling or understand their emotions if you're not in tune with your own emotions. And I've seen this in a lot of men of color in particular. Yeah, society as a whole beat it out of them. They don't make it so men can have emotions, and it's really sad because they're not in tune with themselves. And then you trying to relate to a woman and have children with a woman, it doesn't go well many times, and that's why we have so many single family homes right now. So personally, I can even say when I've courted with certain men, they were not emotionally available. And it was really sad because it's like you can't even be in touch with yourself to know what you're feeling. You don't know what I'm talking about. It's like I'm speaking a foreign language. And it's sad because I'm like, I'm sure you probably have it in there somewhere, but I can't build with you because you're not even available to build with. So, for example, I'll give maybe two examples. One man, he would lie about like small, simple stuff, just lie. And I was like, why do you do that? And he's like, it's not that big of a deal. I'm lying about small stuff. It's not that big. But I'm like, that's how you would teach your children to lie. And I don't want my children to be little liars, manipulators running around here. But he couldn't correlate the two. How you live is how you raise your children, whether you know it or not. You could tell them not to lie, but if you're a liar, your children are going to be liars. But he couldn't correlate it. And then another guy, he said his best friend was a gay man. Anyway, I'm not judging, but in that sense, I'm like, so if we had a son, would you be comfortable with your gay best friend, taking care of our son sometimes or babysitting sometimes? And he was like, I never thought about that. Let me think about it. And he took a really long time to answer. And then finally he was like, yeah, I think it would be okay. And I'm like, that's just not my standard. It wouldn't work for me personally, because if your best friend has a alternative lifestyle, I don't want him to imprint that on my son to have that alternative lifestyle. You got to be able to correlate these things. And some people can't because they don't have the emotional intelligence to understand. So really, it's a skill that can be developed. Anyone can develop it, but you have to learn it and work on it and grow in there. So yeah, that's all I got to say about it.